Now that we are able to reconnect or connect with Governor Fayemi, who is joining us from Abuja virtually, over the landmark decision of the Supreme Court on Friday. The verdict is that the Supreme Court has declared as unlawful and unconstitutional the Executive Order 10 on the funding of state judiciary and legislature. Governor Fayemi has joined us. Thank you so much, Your Excellency, for joining us. And I must say thank you because I know it was a stressful one, having to be in transit and then eventually being able to settle down and to speak to us. Give us a sense of what the governors wanted, because the intent, according to the presidency and the executive, was that the Order 10 was to give some independence to the legislature and the judiciary in the state. But the governors were not happy and they went to court. Now that you have gotten the judgment, what next?
Well, thank you very much, Seun, for having me on your program. Let me state upfront that governors are committed to the agreement we reached with the representatives of the legislature and the judiciary, the presence of the Honorable Minister of Labor and Employment. So that memorandum of understanding that we reached is sacrosanct. We're not changing our position on that. And already, virtually all state governments have incorporated this in Budget 2022. Autonomy is on course. There's no running away from that in principle position that the Nigerian Governors Forum and my brother governors have taken in all their states. However, we were after a principle. This is a democracy that is founded on the rule of law and on extant provisions of the Constitution. The Constitution has already stipulated clearly how the notion of judicial autonomy or legislative autonomy should be addressed. We felt that Mr. President was misadvised by his officials who asked him to go for Executive Order 10. We said as much to Mr. President, and he was gracious enough to ask that our position be considered when he asked the Chief of Staff to set up a meeting between myself, my Vice Chairman, as well as the Honorable Attorney General and the Federal Minister of Finance. And at that meeting, we stated this position, and we were only going to court to ensure that this does not become a precedent in which the federal government can go into the federation account and remove funds belonging to state in an arbitrary manner. That's the principle we were after. We were not after stopping our commitment to judicial autonomy and our discussions and agreement with the Conference of Speakers and the National Judicial Council. I think it's important to make that point. However, we are also before the Temple of Justice. What we took to court was our understanding that capital funds should be undertaken by the National Judicial Council, not the state. And we asked for what we consider to be what is owed by the National Judicial Council on behalf of the federal authority to states. Of course, the Supreme Court found that not to be the case. They didn't rule in our favor. They still felt states should take responsibility for that in a split decision of 4 to 3 justices of the Supreme Court. We're not happy about that, but for us, we would always abide by the position that has been taken by the highest court in the land. And we hope that that is the spirit with which the federal authority would also take the position of the Supreme Court on the Executive Order 10.
I mean, if you listen to some legal opinions on this matter, it was a very tight one from the Supreme Court. But some legal opinions have it that the governors are the major problems of the issue of the independence of judiciary and legislature in the state, the overbearing nature of the executive arm of government, and perhaps the overstepping of some governors in the state, not allowing these arms of government to perform their duties. In fact, the allegations are that the governors are the ones sabotaging the independence of judiciary. Going to court, it does look that that was exactly what has happened.
Well, Sean, you can allege, but when you allege, you also have a duty to prove the allegations. Governors at the receiving end of the media attacks and the attacks of some individuals who have taken a position as far as this issue is concerned. And regardless of what governors do, regardless of the commitment we've demonstrated, they will still hold on to that misadvised position. Governors have no objection to financial autonomy for the judicial arm of government or the legislative arm of government. However, it is clear that it is an autonomy that is based on the resources available to the state. It cannot just be an arbitrary autonomy in which you award funds without reason to any arm of government.
So the question here is the commitment of the governors in the states to be able to allow these arms of government thrive. For example, in a lot of states, the salaries and emoluments accrued to the judges have not been reviewed in several years. In almost 6-7 years, the judges have maintained the same salary structure. And these are some of the issues. And perhaps another one is the fact that some of the judges or the head of the judiciary in the state, they go cap in hand, begging the governors for monies and funding for the arms of government. How then can Nigerians get a commitment from the governors that things will change from the status quo?
Again, Sean, this is a perception issue that is not founded on fact. One, for judges of the High Court and the Court of the Sharia Court, Industrial Court, and the Federal High Court, State and Federal High Court, we are not responsible for their salaries. The National Judicial Council is responsible for their salary. As a matter of fact, we're on record. If you check speeches I have made on this, I have condemned the fact that judicial remuneration has not changed over the years, and that we really ought to do something about it, because what judges are getting by way of salary is frankly a pittance. And the authorities ought to take a position on that. My own Attorney General chaired a committee on behalf of the Federal Ministry of Justice and the National Judicial Council on this matter, and their recommendation is clear that the remuneration and salary should significantly be better than what it is now. Yes, we are responsible for allowances, and allowances vary from state to state depending on the resources available to the state. But what we have now agreed to in the memorandum of agreement that we entered into with the judiciary and the legislature would inevitably take care of that, because the state allocation committees have now started sitting, and the judiciary and the legislature have representatives in these state allocation committees, which is similar to FAC that our own commissioners of finance attend. And it is at that body on a monthly basis that what is coming to the state would determine what each arm of government gets on an applied principle that has already been established in budget 2022. I think it's important for people to know this. rather than just have a carte blanche criticism of governments. I mean, we know that we are footballs to be kicked as elected leaders, but anyone who wants to kick governors should be ready to do so with facts, not fiction.
All right, I'm asking the question based on reaction and facts on this matter, Governor. And as a chairman of the Governors Forum, I'd like to also know does the Governors Forum object to the possibility that the monies accrued to the legislature and the judiciary in the state goes straight to them without having to go first to the executive? Is this a possibility?
The state runs one economy and we have one budget. Don't forget, it is the legislature that appropriates. All we do is suggest. And as part of that appropriation, there is a section of the budget that is dedicated to the judiciary, and there's another section that is dedicated to the legislature, collectively agreed in the processes leading up to the Appropriation Act. So when you say go straight to them, what do you mean? The money goes straight to them anyway.
But I mean, is it also for some who say autonomy to the judiciary in the state or legislature in the state is not absolutely feasible or practical? That's what some governors have been quoted to have said.
There is no absolute autonomy anywhere in the world. There are still states, in fact, where the judiciary or the legislature may be shortchanged as a result of this autonomy, financial autonomy agreement that has been reached, because governors may no longer be as generous as they've been in releasing money for unappropriated initiatives that some states have had cause to do in the past. Now that there is a very clear provision and an extant guideline for what to do, it is what is due to the judiciary or the legislature that would come. And that is based on the percentage of what comes to the state. So if what comes to the state is lower than what the state normally gets as a result of its limited resources from the federation account, from its internally generated revenue, what then goes to each arm of government is also reduced. So you have to live with what autonomy means, even if it means negative resources for you, rather than going cap in hand, as you put it, to the government.
Your Excellency, because of our time and within the precincts of the little time we have left, I have just two short questions away from the issue of the autonomy of the judiciary. Two quick political questions. Your name has been thrown up as one of the presidential hopefuls, and I'd like to get to hear from the horse's mouth in code. And now that we have you tonight, do you have the ambition of running for the president of Nigeria in 2023?
Sean, that's a good try, but you won't get me on that. You promised that you were going to talk to me about judicial autonomy. That's what I'm prepared to talk about. 2023 will deal with itself. It's in the realm of the future, and God will decide what He has in store for every one of us.
Well, I know we had this conversation that was going to be about the judicial autonomy, but I just lost my autonomy to keep to that word. And that's I wanted to know, since I have you tonight, by stroke of luck, maybe we can just get to know whether Governor Fayemi, after being governor of the Ekiti State, might have his eyes of being a president.
Focus on autonomy.
All right. On a final note, I know it might be difficult to get that out of you.
And finish that job well. I'm trying to finish.
All right. For those who are rooting for you,
I'm an elected governor.
But for those who are rooting for you, Governor Fayemi, should they continue, or you don't have eyes on it at all? You don't have an ambition about it. Should your supporters begin to, continue to call for you to run for president? Or Fayemi is out of the race?
Sheon, nice try. I don't know what the future holds for me. I'll continue to pray about the future. But for now, I have a job at time, and I'm trying to do it well to the benefit of Ekiti people and the glory of God Almighty. Let me continue with the job at time.
All right, this one is a shorter one, and I'd like you to also help me to answer it in as brief as you can. And it's about the situation, the aftermath of the primaries. A few people have dropped their plan to go to court. Did you have any meetings for them to drop this case, or you promised them anything for them to drop the case? How did you resolve the matter?
Sheon, you and I have had conversations about what transpired in Ekiti State, and I've continued to insist to you that these leaders of the party who put themselves forward for the primary are first and foremost builders of the All Progressives Congress. And I would like to think that they would always do things that would be in the overall interest of the party. I commend those who have taken the steps they've taken. I encourage others to take the steps that have been announced by Senator Bamidele and Honorable Bamishile, as well as Honorable Dele Fakparusi today. There's still a couple of them out there. I hope they can come in a manner that we build a united team in order to ensure that the good that we're doing for our people continues in the period after June 18, 2022, when APC will, by God's grace, win the election.
All right. I must sincerely thank you, Governor Fayemi. I know what it took to get you off the plane and get you straight for this interview, but thank you so much for joining us. But don't forget that you need to come join us in the studio and let's talk about Ekiti politics and national politics at some time that is comfortable to you. Thank you so much, Governor Fayemi, for joining us tonight. The chairman of the Governors Forum and Governor of Ekiti State, Fayemi. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
But that's our show for tonight, everyone. Many thanks for watching. Thank you. Bye for now, everyone.